Tapan Gupta, whose dream was to set it up like what it is happening today. And
sadly he
passed away. So of course his work was not completed, and we are very happy that what's happening today is for the, it's a pride for our whole Bengali community or Indian community.
Bengal Heritage Foundation London and London Sharadutsam's commemoration of Dwarkanath Tagore. Dwarkanath was a pioneer, not merely in industry in Bengal, India, but an architect of modernity in thought, aspiration and attitude.
Good afternoon everyone, I'm Henry Vivian Neal. I'm a trustee of the Friends Kensal Green. It's a huge, massive pleasure to welcome you all here today, particularly distinguished guests, and on a personal note, having worked with Surav very closely for the past, is it 6 months?
8 months.
8 months, all right, 8 months. When we first met here, by the grave, when it was looking a lot less clean than it is now, but also my association goes back to 1996, when a journalist from the Times of India contacted me. We met in the cemetery, and on the 5th of August 1996, so the 150th anniversary of his burial here, I put flowers on the grave at that point. So it's a rather nice culmination of that to be here today for the commemoration of Dwarkanath today.
With sort of 1794 and bring us to today. 1794 was when Dwarkanath Tagore was born. Okay, obviously 1846 is when he passed away. But I will talk about the rest of the dates as I go through sort of the discussion. Early stories about Dwarkanath Tagore goes back to when I was a child, and I used to hear from my grandfather stories about where he was referred to as a prince, when he started the car Tagore and Company, and that's something I used to hear a lot from my grandfather. And that's how I got interested in Dwarkanath Tagore. It was very interesting. An American academic took interest in him in 1976 and wrote this book, Partner in the Empire, Dwarkanath Tagore and the Age of Enterprise in Eastern India. And that's a pioneering book which opened up eyes of many people in India. And in 1981, and a second book was published by Krishna Kripalini. So the National Book Trust of India commissioned Krishna Kripalini to write this book. And I encourage all of you to look for this book on the internet, because this full text of this book is available on internet. Okay, so people can actually go and read this. So that's what the name of the book is, A Forgotten Pioneer. And it's a very, very touching story, also a very good representation of what Dwarkanath Tagore has achieved. And there's lots of things, but what caught my eye was something I've got it written here. This was about an incident that Krishna Chupalini mentions about how he first sees the sort of grave of Dwarkanath Tagore in the sort of Kensal Green Cemetery, and dates back to 1976. He talks about, he and Blair Kling was in London at that point of time. The two of them actually come and see the grave. And I'm almost going to read from there, but I think what he obviously writes is, he was shocked to see the state of neglect at that point of time in which the tomb was. And he's obviously more shocked given the fact that this is the tomb of the gentleman who built the sort of the monument, contributed to the monument of Ram Mohan Roy, which by that point of time was very well known, was visited by lots of people, but to some large extent Dwarkanath Tagore lay buried here in the middle of London, pretty much unknown by anybody.
But here the partnership was equal partnership, and after that he became the major partner. So that was difference. So in that sense, he was the first predominant partner among the Indians with Europeans. And another remarkable thing at those days, when most of these Bengalis, they developed a character of, this servile character of psychopath character for serving these British royals and all this, these administrators. He appointed Europeans to run his business.
Unfortunately, Dwarkanath's legacy per se has been forgotten, because within the Bengali diaspora as such, there are people of great eminence, the scholars, people who work for top, in top professions, doctors, lawyers, engineers, etc. Unfortunately, the one aspect of life that is overlooked or even looked down upon amongst Bengalis is that of entrepreneurship and business, the commercial side of it. The fact remains that the Rabindranaths, the Jyotirindranaths, the Tagore family would be nowhere without Dwarkanath's largesse, his patronage, his support of the arts. And you cannot be a supporter of the arts if you're penniless.
This ambition of reviving and restoring the grave of Dwarkanath Tagore, I had a very strong desire after I finished the reading of the book, written by Mr. Kriplani, where he sort of has quoted. I was also had tears in my eyes, and we thought that we should do something about it, and that started the whole process. I always wondered, right from my school days, that my Bengali friends, subsequently I met so many Bengalis that are so good in many things which they do. They could be amazingly successful businessmen if they tried to get into business. They are excellent doctors, they are excellent academicians, they are excellent experts on many things. They start an enterprise. They actually rule the world. Why are they not doing it? And then I found why they are not doing it. Because the society, which doesn't give respect to their wealth creators, is sure to get doomed. And one example is Prince Dwarkanath Tagore. We conveniently forgot his achievement, and as Mr. Ganguli just said, Rabindranath Tagore or all his brothers would not have achieved that success had Dwarkanath not left a platform where they had complete financial security. Without financial security, khali pete, prabhu kora jayega. So that kind of security was created by Prince Dwarkanath Tagore. He himself was forgotten. I am not today, only commiserating the Dwarkanath Tagore's reign or things like that. I think this may just trigger a kind of change which we all wish to happen. When a Bengali boy will not think of getting a government chakri, but will aspire to become a global businessman like Prince Dwarkanath
a healthy living initiative along with National Health Service, NHS, we did that. We are doing a cricket tournament in the coming Sunday at Shepherd's Bush Cricket Club. We work very closely with Banjo, which is an NGO at Calcutta, and we fund the education of poor and meritorious students from in the Sundarban region. So that's something we work very closely with. Last year, what we did with SOAS was we partnered with the School of Oriental and African Studies, which is a London University, and we installed a Durga's idol at SOAS, at London University. So you will be able to see that during our Durga Puja this year. And not only just limited to charity organizations and charity activities, we are also encouraging entrepreneurship. And a great example you'll find in Posto. Posto is founded by Pritham Mukherjee. You will see serving food outside. So I think Pritham should come here. So the idea of Bengal Heritage Foundation and London Sharad Utsav is not just doing events or commemorating this in great souls, but also carrying forward what they wanted to do in their life in our generation. And that's why we have Prita standing here, and she has launched into a new endeavor which is called Posto, which is an Indian restaurant that she has founded. It is a very nice name. So we are trying to identify these kind of entrepreneurial activities, and as a diaspora, we are asking everybody, please do come and support us. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Saurabh mentioned the tomb of Ram Mohan in Stapleton in Arnesvale Cemetery in Bristol. This is a tomb which was erected through the good offices of Dwarkanath. And that's partly because when Dwarkanath visited England first in 1842, he came to Bristol. And when he came to Bristol, he visited the house where Ram Mohan passed away, and this house is called Stapleton Grove. And he visited the owners of the house, and he realized that this was a private dwelling. And sooner or later, it would change hands. Ram Mohan had been ill when he was in this house. He died when he was in this house. He was suffering from meningitis, and that was in the year 1833. Dwarkanath's visit happened 9 years later, and Dwarkanath saw the grave of his friend in the gardens of Stapleton Grove, under the shade of elm trees.
Om Brahma Kripani Kevalam Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat. Peace, peace, peace be to all in the name of the divine reality.
Delighted for the first commemoration of Dwarkanath Tagore. Really proud to be part of it, and proud to see the 8 months of work we put in so far to get this started finally seeing fruit. So really pleased with how it's gone, and looking forward to next year.
We've been really encouraged by the participation of the broader Indian and the Bengali diaspora today.
Living the dream that Dwarkanath had, those kind of things, entrepreneurship, social causes and all. So let's hope we can only go forward from here. Thank you.
Shuri, Shuri, Vashi Bhumi, Tumi Aru Aru.